Hello, Fellowship of Open Spokes. It's Tuesday, and I'm Ben Wolkoff, and today I get to tackle the idea of open educators, what makes us open, and how we can be more open. And it was a really interesting topic for me today because every once in a while I use this app called TimeHop that lets me see all of the tweets that I have sent out over the course of my entire Twitter career. And it's a way for me to see how open I have been, and it's a way for me to see what I have been sharing over time. But today, 6 years ago, May 14th of 2007, I sent out a podcast. And on that podcast, I listened to the whole thing because I was really interested. Who was this person that was creating this set of open expectations? And I listened to it, and it was about a collaboration that I was having with another classroom. So my 7th and 8th grade English students were collaborating with Wallingford, Connecticut, Mr. Paul Bogish and his classroom. And the whole podcast is about how the collaboration was amazing, and students were talking to each other in French, and they were creating things that I hadn't envisioned. There was no sort of project that I wanted them to be working on other than the collaborative project. So they were creating something they called the International Community of Minds, or something, ICOM for students. They created this, and then they were talking to one another. And so I was really excited about that project, but something happened over in Mr. Bogish's classroom where he had not sort of informed the parents of what was happening, and parents got really scared about it and really sort of panicked and talked to the principal and the superintendent, and even the school board got involved and sort of shut down the project. And so I had written a blog post about this. I had written about this idea of safety versus panic, right? And it was the first time that I actually saw the power of Twitter to expand the audience. So I had, tweeted out about this blog post, and there were a number of educators, and I listed off these people like I knew them, and really I had only been talking to them for a few months or at least a year, and the ones that I mentioned on the podcast and in the blog post were Bud Hunt and Darren Karpatawa and Clarence Fisher, all people who I regularly talk to now. And so the idea that 6 years ago on this date, I was being open and I was collaborating with someone else halfway across the country, and that my learning was being done, out loud within a podcast, online within the blog post, and then very reflective in this same way. And on the one hand, that's really optimistic that we've had 6 years or more of this kind of openness, right? This kind of learning directly from teachers, one-to-one or one-to-many, when you're thinking about creating those kinds of communities. But it's also a little bit sad in the way that I don't know that we've actually moved, that we've actually created any momentum for that. Are we still in this same sense of panic? And it really hit home for me that it means when we are open, that we are open for a reason, and that we are actually driving towards something. I think that at that particular time, I was being open because it was new and because it was interesting, and I thought that there was something here. But there's a different reason for me to be open now. There's a different reason for me to be sending out tweets or putting up a blog post or, this video blog. The reason for me now is because I want that movement to occur. And I really want us all to be open so that we don't have these moments of panic where we have to go to the authorities to ensure that we still have the system in place. Because I think that while that was a parent issue and a parent issue of transparency, clearly you have to inform parents of what's going on in their children's lives. But what happens when we are the ones that are panicking about how open we can be? What happens when we are saying, no, I don't want to be that open. I don't want to actually open up what my classroom looks like because I'm afraid that it's going to be evaluative. I'm afraid that someone is going to evaluate me on the merits of my teaching or the merits of my openness. And I would want to push that boundary. And I would want to say, how is it that we can advocate for our classrooms to be open, but not open up the ways in which we are being evaluated? How is it that we can open up our students and put their portfolios online? And clearly we have the issue of privacy, and we want to protect certain pieces of that. But how is it that we can actually open up our own portfolios of learning and have this level of reflection that goes beyond what was possible previously? And so I'm going to link to the original podcast, and I'll link to the original tweet that talked about it and the original blog post. But I want to think about, how is it that we can make openness have more purpose rather than openness because it's new? How is it that we can create that open instinct, and that we're okay with opening up what performance looks like, what expectations look like, and saying that's okay, so that we don't panic when we feel that we are exposed, but we actually revel in it. And we say, I want to be that open. I want to share because it is important and powerful, and it's moving and creating momentum. Thanks for helping me think this through. Please leave your ideas in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow.